Hello everyone, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and today I'm going to take a walk through the old part of Las Vegas. And right now I'm starting on, this is Sahara Boulevard, and that would be the old Sahara Hotel. And I'm just going to go north along Vegas Boulevard. And off to the left here is a gift store. It's called Bonanza Gift Shops, and not sure if you could read the sign and whatnot, but it's supposed to be billed as the world's largest gift shop. And on their website it says it's a 40,000 square foot building. It doesn't really sound that big, but they supposedly say it's the world's largest gift shop. Anyhow, getting back to this being the old part of Las Vegas, you can kind of tell that you're in a little bit more of a shady part of town when you see stuff like this. Just bars on all the windows, and there'll be a lot more of stuff like that, and boarded up shops, and also you'll see more like graffiti in this part of town, and homeless people as well. But the graffiti stuff like this, you just wouldn't see that like where the major hotels are, such as Caesars or the MGM on South Las Vegas Boulevard. I mean, I'm sure they get graffiti, but they would cover that up pretty quick. And you also get more kind of like these marijuana dispensary shops. I mean, I'm not saying like it's just the fall of, marijuana dispensary shops. Also a lot more motels, and quite a few charge, they charge by the hour, some of them, and you can kind of guess, what goes on in a situation like that. You get like prostitution and whatnot. But let's see, the first motel up, that one's called Fun City. It doesn't look like they have too many good reviews, just going off of their website here, off of the Google website. One user writes, checked into this place many years ago, wasn't in there for 5 minutes before I saw a roach. The other motels next to it, Holiday House and another, have been converted into apartments. Don't know how much longer this place has. So it doesn't look like they didn't like the Fun City Motel too much. And then there's another Google user writes, stayed here my first night in town after moving from North Dakota. This place is old and dirty. I would have left if I had more money at the time, and they had vacancies, so I had to stay. Floor felt like it was about to cave in, and the 1970s TV didn't even work. I guess you just have to take the reviews for what they're worth. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's that bad. Well, I guess the first person claims to have seen a cockroach, so if it is bug infested. But I mean, the second person, old and dirty. I mean, you can kind of tell it's going to be an older building from the pictures, and most of these motels, not just on north part of Vegas Boulevard where we're at, but I mean just Las Vegas in general, I mean they're going to be older, which is thus the reason why they're probably a lot cheaper. But just out of all fairness, I think the second reviewer, it's just a very general complaint. But as far as like the cockroach part, like that's getting kind of not very good. And you probably wouldn't have too many complaints like that at the bigger hotels, like I was saying at Caesars or MGM, because they're supposed to spray for bugs and whatnot. Anyhow, continuing walking along Las Vegas Boulevard here. just crossing Bob Stupak Avenue. And basically Bob Stupak, he was the guy that built the Stratosphere Hotel right here. And basically for this part of Las Vegas, this is probably the only decent hotel, because it's just surrounded by rundown motels and marijuana dispensaries and pretty much everything else. But they're doing a bunch of construction here on Vegas Boulevard, and I'm not really exactly sure what they're doing. Oh, there's someone on a zip line. They have a zip line set up at the top of the Stratosphere Tower, and that's about 1,100 feet up there. And they zip line all the way down. But getting back to what's going on here at Las Vegas Boulevard, they have this whole part of Las Vegas Boulevard under construction, and they got these like tractors like every couple blocks. I'm not really sure what they're doing. It looks like they're installing some sort of piping, and they just finished this Las Vegas sign. It's kind of neat. It's just a giant arch, and it has the words Las Vegas in the center. And even like the Stratosphere, like what I was saying about graffiti and whatnot, I'm sure if someone were to graffiti on their hotel, they would probably clean it off pretty quick, because I really haven't seen any graffiti the times that I'm up here. But I'm sure it has happened here. I mean, but they keep this hotel pretty clean on the outside, and seems like they have quite a bit more security than most hotels do. And across the street is a Alarm Co. building. It says Alarm Co. since 1950. So I guess even back in the 1950s, this might not have been the best part of town. But they kind of knew that though when they built the Stratosphere. I think they knew that they were going to have some problems. This hotel opened in '96, so even back then this wasn't all that great of an area. And then you could get into the reasons, well, you know, like why is it not so great? I mean, like I was saying before, I don't think it's any one thing. It's a combination of factors. I think a big part of it is the older buildings, and you don't get a lot of newer investment in this part of town. And then I think the kind of businesses they have here also plays a part in it. Not so much just the marijuana dispensaries, but you get, you know, of course, the motels that don't upkeep their buildings, and then there's like strip clubs and whatnot. So I don't know, it's just kind of more graffiti. It's just kind of like that part of town really, where it just there's been times where maybe it has like looked like it was going to get better, but now with this coronavirus, I think it's definitely not helping it. And I'm just crossing Main Street here. This is kind of where Las Vegas Boulevard branches off. And here's another welcome to the city of Las Vegas sign. They got a bunch of these. This one's kind of newer too. And then off to the left here, I think that tent structure's for the Stratosphere. And across the street, it's called it says a Culinary Health Fund. And let me see about that place real quick here. So that's basically where the culinary workers, the food service workers on Las Vegas Boulevard go to for their health care. And from their website it says, we're the Culinary Health Fund. People sometimes call us the fund. The fund provides healthcare benefits, insurance to culinary workers in Las Vegas. It looks like it's a pretty good deal for them because as we all know, healthcare is rather expensive now. And anyhow, walking along, here's some little bit of new development. There's a Denny's over here off to my left. It looks like a newer Denny's, and it's nice to see some cars in the parking lot there today. It's a Saturday afternoon, so it's good to see people out eating and shopping and whatnot. And to the left, here's another restaurant. This one's called Tacos Mexico. And it doesn't look like they're doing as well as Denny's. Looks like they got one car there in their parking lot. And here's another marijuana dispensary there, a Curaleaf cannabis dispensary. They pretty much have these marijuana dispensaries just about every block. And here's another motel over here, since the traffic is all jammed up. They got this whole section of Vegas Boulevard just completely torn up. Let's see, this would be the Oasis Motel. It doesn't look like this one's doing all that well. Let me see here. Of some online reviews, one person writes, "Bad, don't stay here. They report all guests to Metro Police." I'm not sure if that's really a bad thing necessarily. And then one more online reviewer writes, "It was a rather dirty, scary place. We barricaded our door with the nightstand and chair because the door didn't lock properly. Husband was afraid to take a shower. I took a shower very carefully. Shady looking people hanging around in the courtyard. Lots of feral cats, which actually might be good for rodent control. A hotel experience I've never had before and will do my best to never have again. There was a bed and I didn't see any signs of bed bugs. Nothing bit me while asleep. I think the sheets were clean." Like the other reviewers, and the owner doesn't answer these reviews, which is kind of surprising because some of them are very general. And that last one, the person says they didn't feel safe. I mean, I don't really, just in all fairness to the motel, I don't think, that's necessarily the motel's fault. I mean, they didn't really say, did they not feel safe because the people in the motel or the people hanging outside of the motel. They weren't really specific. So, I mean, if I owned that motel, I would have, answered, well, gee, if you didn't feel safe, you could, I don't know, just let us know. But put in a chair against the door, well, I guess that's, if that made him feel better. But the guy did say that there were no signs of bed bugs. So, that's good. And anyhow, across the street, here's it says White Cross Market, and haven't really heard of this market before, so let me see what it is. It just going off online here, it looks like this was a grocery store at one time, and it's now boarded up, and it doesn't say why it closed down, but it did close down. And then it looks like behind the White Cross Market, let me zoom in, just some more boarded up buildings behind there, and I really don't know what the story is with those either. It's kind of looking like Detroit. I mean, you just seen a lot of boarded up buildings, graffiti, and I mean, there's a difference between, you know, a boarded up building like that over there, and then here this business here has a giant fence around it. But they're doing, it looks like they're doing construction on the 7-Eleven. They have off to the right, there's a big hole there, which I assume would be for the gas station that they're probably going to have. And looks like they have a broken window there too, and a bunch of graffiti. See if I can zoom in. See, so whoever owns that 7-Eleven, I guess they figure why paint over the graffiti if someone's just going to show up and, you know, repaint their graffiti again and mess up their business. I mean, because if I own that business, I'd certainly make sure it doesn't have graffiti on the front of it, or I think most people would. And I'm now at Oakey Boulevard, and I'm not sure what the story is behind the naming of this street, but could be a reference to maybe people coming from Oklahoma in the 1930s. I guess even back then, this part of town might not have been all that great. And looking across the street, there's some more boarded up businesses. Looks like there's a bail bond business, and then looks like the bail bonds person is still in business, but the one next to it is all boarded up. To the right, here's a Mexican restaurant. I don't know much about that. Looks like it is open though. And directly ahead, here's a business called OG. And let me see what OG is here. Looks like it's closed up now. It was a topless bar. It's currently closed. It says from their website, both men and women topless bar. It looks like it's a pretty big building. It's 2 stories. And let me see if I could get a better view from the back of the building. Looks like they had a drive-through at one time at the OG Club. And that building goes all the way. And here's another business on Las Vegas Boulevard. This one's called Todd's Motor Motel, and looks to be boarded up. And but at one time it was in business, and just looking at some of the online reviews, it doesn't look like it was doing that well when it was in business. One person writes, "In the end, we woke up around 6 a.m. to find our door slightly open. As the doors don't automatically lock, you have to manually lock the door. Needless to say, someone came into our room and took my overnight bag, which they probably thought was a purse. It had some precious hair barrettes and a silver bracelet in it, which are one of a kind. Next time I go to Vegas, I'm staying in a secure hotel. Bottom line, the owner didn't even seem to care that this happened." So basically that sounds like a pretty bad review, and the owner did not answer the online review, which is not too surprising. But doesn't look like this motel is going to be taking any more customers, or at least not the paying kind. And there's a few other businesses across the street. Looks like they're still in business. There's a Boston Pizza, and just looking at the customer reviews online, it looks like that business is overall has pretty good reviews and is doing well. There's a tattoo shop next to the pizza parlor, and then there's also a smoke shop, which I assume is probably doing well now, along with all the other marijuana shops and whatnot. And here's some more motels off to the left. It's a Star Motel, and Here's another business to the right. There's a says world famous wedding chapel, and that looks to be boarded up as well. And let's see about this Star Motel here. Just looking at the online reviews for this Desert Star Motel, looks like there's quite a few complaints. One person writes, scary like Halloween, 365 days a year, boo. And another viewer writes, rooms are not even livable. The staff is so rude and can barely speak English. Their prices are inconsistent and they treat everyone as if they are superior to them. I don't know, those are just kind of more generalized complaints. I mean, a scary place, I mean, it's not really the motel's fault. I mean, and I'm not sure if they're referring to this part of town or the motel itself, but it looks like there's cars in the parking lot, so it looks like they're still in business. And they do have a security fence around the whole motel, and they probably need it too. And it's also surprising that the motel owner doesn't answer these complaints, you know. I mean, as far as what they can say about it being a scary place. I mean, if I owned that motel, maybe tell people, well, how about like what the last guy did? He put his chair against the door. Okay, maybe not that. Maybe bring some mace with you. I mean, if that makes you feel a little bit safer. And you know, also, in all fairness, like quite a bit of the same, some of the same things people complain about. Maybe not so much the bed bug stuff, but as far as like Las Vegas being a scary place, all of the same things can also happen at the nicer hotels too, as far as once you're out on Vegas Boulevard. But then again, though, the difference with that is that most of South Las Vegas Boulevard, where the bigger hotels are, they do have cameras all up and down Vegas Boulevard, and it's just for the reason to make tourists feel safer. And so though I guess that is kind of true, though crime also happens near the nicer hotels, probably the difference is that the person committing the crime is going to get caught. Whereas like here, you know, I mean, if someone were to, you know, rob me, come up with a gun or something, I mean, what could you do? You know, I mean, I doubt there's any cameras around here. It'd just be, you just have to deal with it by yourself, basically. And here's another boarded up business. I don't know what all this was. Looks like this was some sort of like smaller businesses, and then this one next to it, this is looking like it, one more motel. Let's see. It says Hi-Hat Regency, and this one is actually still open, or at least the right side of it is still open. And looking at some of the online reviews for the Hi-Hat Regency, they don't look too good. One user writes, worst stay ever. This hotel gives the word crap hole a new meaning. And another reviewer writes, bed bugs, nasty rooms, no refunds, no laundry, no meals, will steal your stuff. Well, the bed bug part certainly doesn't sound very well, but then the thing is, though, he kind of discredits himself when he says no meals. I mean, I think some people are kind of expecting a little bit too much if they expect a meal at a $20 motel. And maybe the guy should have tried this place here, the Hostel Cat. Neat sign, a picture of a cat on their sign. And surprisingly, just reading some of the online reviews for the Hostel Cat, overall, they're pretty good, though it's kind of odd for a smaller business. On Google, they have over 1,000 reviews. One reviewer writes, "My stay there went great, friendly service and great vibes. I even had good talks with the staff. Some things we have in common with. They're even generous to offer more towels and blankets at your request. That's how hostel staff service should be." And the owner actually writes the person back. They say, "Thanks, come back and visit soon." And mostly good reviews. Let me see if I can find one that's not so great here. One person writes, "I stayed here in August 2020. Very small rooms for me for 6 bunk beds in one room. Dim lighting, AC was locked at certain temperatures so the room was warm. You can't change it. The bed cover was obviously filthy dirty. I started itching after staying here. I was immediately thinking pest lice. Maybe a coincidence, I don't know. Asked for a tour if they let you. I checked out while after I saw the room." Okay. And then the owner writes them back, "Hi Jay, sorry that you did not enjoy your time with us. We are now under new management and are making a lot of exciting changes, including new bed covers and lighting. The AC is locked due to the shared nature of a hostel, and we try to find a happy medium for all guests." Well, I mean, at least the owner of the hostel, at least they answer the complaint. As far as the bed bugs go, they did say that they were buying new linens for the rooms, so that could be, I don't know, that business actually had one of the probably better reviews of all the motels that I've walked by so far this afternoon. And here's one more motel. This one is also called the Desert Star. And just looking at the online reviews for this Desert Star motel, they don't look too good. There's one happy customer. One person writes, "No deposit, good room." And they give it 5 stars. And then someone else writes, "Poor manager, open door, and my dog ran out and I never found him." So that's rather underhanded if that review is true, that the manager just let that person's dog out. So that's not a motel that I'd want to stay at. And here's another hostel to the left. And let me see, this is called Sin City Hostel. It looks like most of the reviews on here are positive. Let's see, one person who was not too happy with their stay at the Sin City Hostel writes, "I only write reviews when I feel it necessary for others in the future. I booked for a week stay in an all-female dorm. I left early because I felt unsafe. Please do not stay here, especially if you are female. Trust me on this one." However, the owner replies to the complaint, "Hi Emily, you did leave one day early. When I asked you if everything was okay, you said everything was fine. I wish you would have brought up your concerns with us. We could have helped you out." And the owner goes on to write about 2 paragraphs of a answer. But it looks like, the owner has a valid response to that complaint. The customer felt like they were unsafe, and then they go online and write a scathing review. But when they were at the business, they didn't let the business owner know. And it's possible the people at the hostel, maybe they could have helped her. I mean, I'm not sure if I'd want to be a single female just staying at one of these places, so I'm not sure how much they can do for her. But that's a good example, though, of how you can help your business just by basically answering a complaint. And some complaints are valid, and that one, maybe it is valid, but it's not really the hostel's fault that it's kind of a rundown area. And across the street, here's another adult store. This one's called Adult Superstore. And just looking at the reviews for the Adult Superstore online, they mostly look positive. I really normally wouldn't care too much about an adult store, but I'm just curious here. Let's see what they say. One person says, going to a themed birthday party, needed to get the right costume. Wasn't enough time to order something online, so we knew it would be here. Upon entering, was quickly greeted and questions answered. There are rows upon rows of all items adult, ranging from clothing, toys, to items needing hardware for installation. Items needing hardware for installation. I don't know what she's referring to. Anyhow, everything was well kept, interior clean, prices are fair. Only drawback, normally, if you have your sheriff card, you're discounted on clothing. This store did not offer that, even though their other locations do. I've never really heard of that before. Both the sheriff's card or the discount for having one. I'm not sure if that means that she was in law enforcement, a sheriff's card, or if that means maybe she was working at one of the strip clubs or whatnot. And if you need some sort of a card for that, and then you're supposed to expect a discount for having one. But it looks like that business is doing well. And over to the left, here's a storage business. This one's called Extra Space Storage. And it's probably one of the better ideas for a business on this part of town to just basically use the land for storage purposes, as long as you're not getting your stuff stolen. Looks like they have a pretty big fence around the whole building there. And across the street is a Wells Fargo bank. First thing that comes to my mind is I kind of wonder how many times that bank has been robbed. And just looking online, the first news story that pops up for this bank, it looks like it's about 15 years old. And there really aren't any websites that really keep track of bank robberies at each location. But this is kind of an interesting story. It says, Nellis Air Force Base Master Sergeant, who pleaded guilty in August to committing 8 bank robberies in the Las Vegas area, was sentenced on Wednesday, October 19th, 2005, to 63 months in federal prison, announced Daniel G. Bowden, United States Attorney for the District of Nevada. Kevin J. Johnson, age 41, of Las Vegas, was also ordered to pay $9,439 in restitution to the victim banks. So it's kind of surprising that a Nellis Air Force Base Master Sergeant would go around robbing banks. And the article goes on to state, between June 17th, 2004 and October 8th, 2004, Johnson entered 8 federally insured banking institutions in the Las Vegas area and demanded cash from bank employees. On each occasion, he placed the life of another person in jeopardy by presenting a note to bank employees indicating he was armed with a gun. Specifically, Johnson admitted to robbing the following financial institutions, and it gives a list of all the 8 banks. But that's quite a robbery spree, 8 banks, and then the restitution order for $9,000. So that means he was only getting about $1,000 per bank. So that just shows you crime doesn't pay, and even bank robbery certainly doesn't pay. I mean, let me see, how much time did this guy get? So he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for that, and he probably lost his job at the Nellis Air Force Base. That's the Air Force Base that's located north of Las Vegas. It's about 15-20 miles to the north, and that would probably actually be one of the better jobs in the Las Vegas area if you work there. So that kind of just goes to show you that it's not always who you expect the people doing the crime out here. And just reading off their website, the payday loan and car title loan, it actually seems to have pretty good customer reviews. So it looks like they are doing well. And that big building there, that would be a condo building. And I was looking at some of the prices for a condo, and surprisingly, they're a little bit expensive for, or at least I think for this area. A one-bedroom condo in that building starts in the mid 200,000 range. So maybe the closer we get to Fremont Street, we're only maybe a couple blocks from Fremont Street. Things might start getting a little bit better as you get closer to the bigger hotels like the Golden Nugget and whatnot. There's still some nice hotels on Fremont. So, and just looking at some of the online reviews for the Gateway Motel, looks like there's a mix of good and bad, but it looks like mostly bad. One reviewer writes, "It's a motel, not a hotel. I didn't get the type of room I ordered and was charged extra when I arrived. The room was run down and the bed as hard as the collapsing floor. Not a good place for a tall person. I'm 6 foot. The only reason I gave 2 stars is because the check-in lady was nice and checkout was very simple." And another user writes, "No housekeeping unless you asked. Roof leaks into the room. Pedaling front of the door. Lost my key. Charged me $10. Would not refund when I found it. For the most part, I knew what to expect in accord with..." Can't read that. "These other things are not okay." And across the street is a medical center, and it looks to also be boarded up. I'm not sure if that's just the ground floor or the whole building. Looks like there's a few cars in the back parking lot, but it's just kind of the theme for this part of Las Vegas. Just a lot of boarded up businesses. And though it's always been, as long as I've been coming out here for like the last 15 years, the old part of town has always been kind of sketchy, but this is probably the worst that I've seen. I've seen things just by judging from the number of boarded up buildings. Just in general, that's just not something you see out on the west. Out west, it's more something you would see maybe like Detroit, Toledo, south side of Chicago. You really don't see a lot of boarded up buildings in California. It's just the cost of real estate is just so expensive. Even in the worst of areas, you really don't see boarded up buildings, and there's probably a lot of places in California that are even worse than this part of Las Vegas, such as say South Los Angeles, or even Northern California like Oakland. Still pretty bad places, but you probably won't see as many boarded up buildings. And it seems like they just can't find a business to support the building. There's only so many strip clubs and lingerie stores and marijuana shops. Those seem to be really in general, the only businesses. And here's a tattoo place, of course. There's just really seems like a handful of businesses that are doing decent in this part of town. And you can only have really so many, tattoo shops and bail bondsmen. And then you start getting buildings like this here. And we're actually pretty close to Fremont Street now. It's another maybe 2-3 blocks up Vegas Boulevard here. And just about to cross Gas Avenue. And just crossing Gas Street, here's a bail bonds business. And kind of interesting, like online, this business is showing up under several different names. From the outside, it looks like it's called A Bail Bonds, but online, this business also shows up as Dad's Bail Bonds, and seems to have a mix of good and bad reviews. I normally wouldn't review a bail bondsman, but let's just see what people are saying about this business. One reviewer writes, very poor quality of service. The owner attempted to intimidate a friend with a gun on his hip due to a review. I would not support this business at all. Just horrible. They should be ashamed of the quality of service provided. So that customer didn't seem to be too happy, and might want to be careful if you leave a bad review, because someone might show up with a gun on their hip. Let's see, another user writes, I always use Dad's when I'm in trouble. I love this place. The owner is a great human. He bailed me out, then took me for dinner and let me shower at his house. Wow, so cool. The last one, I don't know, that sounds kind of fake, or if it's not fake, I'd be a little bit concerned that the customer always uses Dad's bail bonds. So basically, I guess there's just some of it is BS, but maybe not all of it. Anyhow, the next business you've probably seen before on TV. This one is the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. They have a show on A&E, and people that come to Vegas, like, they might be surprised that most of the pawn shops are not like this. Most of them are run down and basically catered to poor clientele. But this particular shop, I mean, it's doing well, and it looks like they even expanded to this other building over here in the back. So this place, it gets pretty busy. And there's usually a line out in front of people, tourists trying to get in. But in general, the pawn shops in Las Vegas are not really worthwhile visiting. Probably get better deals at Walmart. And if I have more time, I could check out a few of the pawn shops. There's one up the street, another block or two, but just in general, it's probably not a place to go to for a good deal, either buying or selling. And I'm just crossing Garces Avenue, and across the street there's another marijuana store, and it looks like behind it there's a building that looked like it wasn't doing so well. Let me just see if it's part of the marijuana shop. It looks like the marijuana shop is doing pretty well. So all the people, even myself, that complain about these marijuana stores, I mean, if this marijuana store wasn't here, you would probably have this. And I'm not sure what this was before it got all boarded up. And it's pretty obvious that no one really cares about this building here, so I'm not even going to complain about it being having graffiti on it. And not only that building, but there's also more down the street here. Looks like that was a pretty big office building, and looks like it's getting boarded up kind of right now. And still walking along Garces Avenue to Las Vegas Boulevard. Here's the front of the Canistars marijuana shop. And across the street, first I thought that was another lingerie store. It's called Rogue Toys, but actually they actually just sell like video games. And then there's the usual bail bondsman right next to them, and of course a tattoo and a cigar store. You can almost predict what businesses are going to be next to each other. And then across the street, here's a wedding chapel. And this is called Graceland Wedding Chapel. And looks like they have pretty good customer reviews. One person writes, "From day one at choosing this chapel, Mary made sure that everything was in order and we knew everything in front of the wedding day. Brendan was our Elvis." So it looks like they have the minister dress up as Elvis. And in our opinion, the best Elvis ever. He made sure we were comfortable and his singing was second to none. And the person goes on for about another paragraph. They write about how they enjoyed their wedding ceremony. Let's see if I can find a negative review here, see what people are really saying. Here someone writes, "Came for my brother's wedding. It was one of the nicer ones I've been to. The only downside is that they didn't let you record with your own device. It would have been nice to get some personal footage of your family member's wedding. Like I said, cool, good-sized place." So it looks like the worst review I could find on the Graceland was they just don't let you bring your own camera or video recorder with you. And it looks like to get married here, it starts at about $100. And someone looks like they're getting married right now. And does this have a drive-through? I know some of them do. Don't even have to get out of your car to get married. I would say the wedding chapel businesses, here's another one. They're probably one of the better businesses in this part of town. And here's Mon Belam Wedding Chapel. And I guess it makes sense because it is a cheaper side of town, and the rents are cheaper, which explains how they can get people married for $100. And the next street up, this is Bonneville Avenue. And it looks like the buildings are starting to get a little bit newer. Across the street to the left, there's a Chase Bank building. And some vacant land to the right. I imagine at one point there was probably something here that just couldn't support itself and was subsequently torn down. I'm not sure if you would call that wall art or a public service message. It says, "Are we free?" on the back of that building. Not sure who they're referring to. And it looks like this building is also boarded up. There's no indication of what it was before it went out of business. I don't even see an address on it, but it does say it's for sale. It's a pretty big building. It's 2 stories. Looks like there's a few broken windows. And here's a real big building. First I thought this was a hotel, but it's actually it's showing up as the ICE building, which stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So basically, if you're in the country illegally, you just might wind up in this building here. And they also have the city jail. It's about 2 blocks to the west of here. And it looks like across the street is an old courthouse building. It says Supreme Court of Nevada. And I'm not sure if that building is still functional, because they have these newer courthouses over here. And so here's the front of the ICE building. There's no name to this building. It just has an address. It says 501 Las Vegas Boulevard. And of course it's a federal building. And then looking to the north, this is Clark Avenue I'm about to cross. This other building, here, that's the U.S. District Court. And here's the front of the U.S. District Court building, still along Las Vegas Boulevard. And to the left across the street is another courthouse. That's the Federal Bankruptcy Court. And we're just about to Fremont Street. So this part of town is probably a little bit better than where we were just at. I mean, basically whenever you're near courthouses, especially federal court buildings, there's a little bit extra security, or hopefully there is, or at the very least they stay pretty safe. I mean, they got this wall going around their parking lot in the back. And behind me there's the U.S. District Court, and I just crossed the street and almost to Bridger Street here, and I can see Fremont just directly ahead in about another block. And here's a better view of the downtown Vegas skyline. That would be the D Hotel and Casino. It's just called D. And towards the west, that building right there is the Golden Nugget, and that's just about a block away. And that's probably one of the nicer hotels to stay at in the Fremont area. And still on Vegas Boulevard across the street, here's another motel. This one's called the Villa Inn Motel. And looking at some of the online reviews, looks like it's a mix of good and bad. Let's see, start with the good first. And start with the good first. One reviewer writes, "Good price and comfortable place. I loved the attention. 100% recommend. Good place." And the owner writes back, looks like the reviewer was actually in Spanish but was translated by Google. The owner writes back, "Thank you very much, Paula." And another reviewer writes, "Smelled old and was dirty." However, the owner actually answers this complaint. The owner writes back, "We regret your unpleasant experience. Out of curiosity, do you remember which room number that was? Thank you." So at least the owner's taking a proactive role and asking the customer, if they even were a customer, what the problem was. And one reviewer writes, "Scary place." That's all they write. And the owner actually replies back. They write, "Alyssa, you should always feel comfortable wherever you choose to stay. We do have security cameras set up throughout our premise to ensure the safety of our valued guests." So, that might actually be a good motel to stay at. I mean, you got to give the owner credit that they did answer the complaints, and both of them were rather vague. I mean, one of the reviewers just writes "scary place." That doesn't necessarily mean the motel is scary. It could just be they just didn't like the area, which in general, I mean, they kind of should have known about before they booked the motel, that this isn't really the greatest part of town. And I'm sure the main reason why they chose to stay at that motel was probably because it was cheaper. So, And I'm just outside the Easy Pawn store here on Vegas Boulevard, and there's no line to get into this pawn store, and this is probably more of a typical pawn store in Las Vegas. So just gonna check it out and see what kind of deals I could find. Hello. See, here's some TVs. Those are kind of smaller. This one's a 50-inch for $187. Got some watches. Here's video games. I don't know much about that. Power tools. Of course, you got to pawn into one thing you can make a living with. Here's a circular saw, $80. Here's another one, a skill saw for $30. Probably get better prices if you go to Walmart. Here's some table saws, $50, a little bit better. Anyhow, just leaving the pawn store, but in general, those are not really such great deals. I mean, they had more stuff like laptops and whatnot, but it didn't seem like they wanted me to record in there. But the power saws, though, I mean, even if it is a higher end saw, I mean, $80, I'm pretty sure you could probably get that new at Home Depot for like maybe, I don't know, 50 bucks more. And then the skill saw, that's just something that you would buy at Walmart, and you could probably get a brand new one for like $10 more. So if you have extra time, the pawn stores are, I mean, I don't know, you could find good deals maybe. And I'm just about to cross Carson Street, and it looks like across Vegas Boulevard, that used to be a post office, and looks like they're going to redo that office building. It doesn't look like it's being torn down. And I'm just about to cross Carson Street here, and I'm almost to Fremont. Off to the left, this building here is the parking garage for Fremont Street. And over to the right, I'm not sure what that building is. It's got no windows at all, just an antenna on the top. And up ahead is Fremont Street, and that big white building there, that's a condo tower. And also to the right, there's the El Cortez. That's kind of an older hotel. Motel, I guess it's more of a motel, but they also have a casino, which I don't think any of the motels that we've seen today have. So I guess you could call the El Cortez a motel with a casino. And this is the Fremont Street, the start of it, and a whole bunch of restaurants and bars. And directly ahead, this is the Fremont Experience. It's basically that giant overhead projector. And since you managed to walk all that way today, that was a 2-mile walk. Here's the Heart Attack Grill. And their sign says if you're over 350 pounds, you can eat for free, and you can weigh yourself right here. So it looks like that could be a good deal.